Ladies and gents, welcome back. Masks are the first line of defense against the current thing, apparently. Here's Justin Trudeau in Canada, and here he is in the Ukraine. So apparently it's not a big deal over there. Well, a study just came out. Here's from the counter signal. Masks might make COVID worse. A mask study covering 35 European countries, 602 million people in this study, concluded that wearing COVID masks did not reduce transmission or deaths and may have exacerbated the virus. In a peer-reviewed study published in the journal Cureus by Dr. Beny Spira, Beny Spira reviewed every European country with at least 1 million people between October 2020 and March 2021, when the entire continent was undergoing the outburst of COVID-19. Mask mandates and compliance across these countries varied significantly from 5% to 95% by comparing each respective countries' infection and death statistics, along with these mask-wearing percentages. Spira drew two conclusions. While no cause and effect conclusions could be inferred from this observational analysis, the lack of negative correlations between the mask usage and COVID-19 cases and deaths suggests that a widespread use of masks at the time when an effective intervention was most needed, i.e. during the strong 2020 to 2021 autumn-winter peak, was not able to reduce COVID-19 transmission. Moreover, the moderate positive correlation between mask usage and deaths in Western Europe and also suggests the inversal use of masks may have had harmful unintended consequences. Interesting. Of course, previous studies draw contrary conclusions, but Spira argues that falsely attributed mask mandates as having efficacy when in reality they were implemented at the tail end of the COVID waves, not at the time that would, leading up to the wave, the point in which transmission would be the issue. So we're not talking about the time when everybody's already got it. Well, what's the point? It's supposed to stop the transmission. Well, it clearly was not the case here. Spira is yet another scientist who has discovered that masks have harmful effects on public health. As previously reported by the Countersignal, a separate study found that microplastics in face masks could have exacerbated the virus and caused many health problems. So we heard about this. I first heard about this on Viva Fry's channel when he was covering some news about microplastics found in lungs for the first time in forever, like ever. And apparently, a lot of these microplastics are actually in the N95 masks. They're tiny plastics inside the mask, and people have been inhaling them, and they're found in people's lungs as of recent times, which apparently is causing more negative health effects. Furthermore, it isn't unreasonable to assume Canadian authorities are unaware of these studies or that their arbitrary pick of those they arbitrarily pick and choose what quote-unquote science to follow. Canada State Broadcasting Company, the CBC, just wrote an article about 3 top doctors in Ontario writing the provincial health authorities to reimpose mask mandates. Of course they are. Top doctors? No, they're not the top, not the best, not the brightest, not the most experienced. They don't even treat patients. They're government doctors. But you're the CBC. You're not journalists. You're government journalists. This is Ezra Levant on there, quoting this CBC article, quoting top doctors in 3 regions, issue letter to Ontario urging the reinstatement of mask mandates. That's a thing. By wearing a mask, you're not only protecting yourself, but you're also protecting others more vulnerable to you. And here's another case where here's a guy who's not doing well, so everybody must sacrifice for the one guy who is not well. And David Amber jumped in here on Twitter to say, stop spreading misinformation. Masks have been coming off in greater and greater numbers, and yet COVID numbers continue to drop. Quebec has been experiencing equal or greater COVID numbers than Ontario, despite having higher mask compliance. Oh, and then there's this. And then there's the Cureus.com, the mask, this study in particular. Politicians, too, have demanded mask mandates return, and Ontario's chief medical officer, Moore, recently said they could come back as soon as by the fall. So that's what we have to look forward to from our, well, follow the science government and our government officials that are just oh so eager to re-implement these mask mandates. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The reason we're not wearing masks today, and the reason why you don't have a QR code to go into people's establishments and to do certain things, would be largely thankful to truckers, the individuals that decided to say this is enough is enough, and we're not going to stand for this. People have been putting their foot down and saying, nope, not going to happen. And that's the only, in my opinion, it's the only reason why we don't have further restrictions today. It hasn't, they haven't lifted completely. There's still cross-border passports and passports to fly on airplanes within the country. So there's still a big fight to get rid of the stuff that still exists. And let me remind you, none of this exists in other countries. Even the Ukraine, where our Prime Minister of Canada and his cohort are currently over and enjoying the maskless freedom, and in a place that I'm sure doesn't have the same vaccine compliance as Canada. So I'll leave you guys with that. Check out the next video. We'll see you in the next one. And as always, keep on trucking.